Okay, so I'm going to start another video for you guys. Yeah, I'm going to try and give you this visual of how I see things. And I've been writing a lot about it, but it's really just in bits and pieces how I'm sort of trying to get this beautiful vision of us out into the world. I realize that we're all sort of connecting to this idea. I believe that the information is here, it's in the world. Truth is here. I believe Messiah is here because Messiah is truth. Now, Messiah also is the person who brings all of us back together to this oneness, back to God. And I believe that's what's happening in the world now. We're all we're all from all different places, we're all starting to connect to this idea of oneness and how we are not separate beings all running around separately, competitively, and against each other. We're actually all a part of one another, and we really need to get out of our self-centered thinking and start realizing that what I do to you, it actually affects me. So this is a thought that has been evolving for me, um, especially like and much quicker in the last 3 years. I think because I've been writing about it. Intuitively, I've written a book called We Are One. Um, it was kind of my journey. I didn't really understand. I didn't have much direction writing the book. I just felt like I needed to write these things down. I was really inspired at the time, and I just had this massive amount of inspiration to just get it all out. It's just with very very little direction. I put this book together, and honestly, I feel like I still have been writing the book. In my blog, I just been continuing to write on the thought. The information had come to me in beautiful, beautiful poetry about this beautiful love relationship that I'm in, that I feel like we all are in, and we really still haven't completely identified to it so well. We're just beginning to see this beautiful, um, this beautiful thing about ourselves. Now, God created in the beginning, He created man in the image of Him, and so that's where our questions really should begin, because when we ask those bigger questions, who am I? We do start off with who am I as a person. So who am I as Shani in this body, in this capsule that I'm in? Is just a very small part of who I am, because after I feel like I'm pretty confident in, and this is all also where we never really get to the end of who we are, because we're just always evolving into understanding a bigger part of ourselves, and really that that next level really happens when we start to see ourselves in everybody else. And that's kind of what I've been talking about, especially in the last 3 years. And so, yeah, so let's start with how I see things as being in the image of God. So I've always kind of looked at, like, we look at God as being a him, because him, masculine, is always first. So even though the feminine is there, it's always kind of behind the masculine. So even when you read the Bible, it's very, very masculine. Another thing that's happening in the world that makes me think that we're becoming more balanced is that the feminine is becoming more recognized as part of the masculine in a full identity that includes the both of them equally. and somehow that, and understanding those, that duality is not actually two, it's actually one. When we understand that, we can put things into a better perspective of how we relate to one another, how we even think, because within ourselves, then, if we are created in the image of God, then we are created to be male and female. So even within myself is a very masculine part of who I am. But what does that mean? So that's where I've kind of broken up things, um, to help me understand, which is not, it's not a new thing. You can really look at masculine traits and understand that the masculine thinking is very logical. It's very thought out. It's very 1 + 1 = 2. It makes sense. It's a pathway. You know that that we need to. It's a knowing. Like, I know. I have a recipe. I know how to make these cookies. My recipe tells me how to make the cookies. And we don't really like to go off that path, which I believe is kind of religion. Religion is a path. It's a path to understanding who God is. Now, we are very physical and God is very spiritual. So how do we identify with a spiritual thing in a very physical understanding? We need religion. And so that's how, we kind of birthed religion into the world, is our, us basically trying to describe what spirituality is. But the way that I see things is we've also been doing things very backwards. We've been doing things. We've been basically, to understand God, you need faith. So you need intuition, and intuition is more female. It's more the feminine part of things, as well as being creative. That right side brain thinking, and so we need the faith, we need the intuition, but we also need the path to kind of combine to have an absolute truth, a knowing. Now, the way, of course, the world is there's, we can't have spirituality and just spirituality and not really have any laws that govern spirituality. And we know that even with the science and the deeper science of quantum physics and things like that, there's so much math and that has to go along with understanding the very, 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 very small things, like even our bodies, which we can break them all up, break up everything in our body into smaller compartments, into cells, and then into looking at things that we can't even see with the naked eye anymore. All of this stuff is, basically God trying to tell us that, how to try to understand ourselves as spiritual beings. And as much as spirituality doesn't like religion, because, they're two opposite ends of the spectrum, we have to learn to balance things. Somehow we need to bring these two together, and balance it all out, just like the man and the woman, and the way the thinking is. So we in our own self is a man and a woman, which I believe is our brain, our ego. It comes first. Masculine is very dominant, and the female is more suppressed, and she's more the quieter. She's the heart. I believe the feminine, and it's not just my belief. This is science. This is stuff that we've been all talking about, and it's also religion, and it's also Kabbalah, which I realize now that it's Kabbalah. It's in books in the Kabbalah that as I'm understanding this more, I'm also realizing that this is not new stuff. This is stuff that's been talked about for, this is deep, deep, deep ancient wisdom, not, in Kabbalah and Buddhism and Hinduism and in so many different religions, which we're all starting to understand that they're all intertwined, and really, because it's that intuitiveness along with the religion, that we've been doing since the beginning of time, that we have been creating, because that's what we are. We're creating with God. But when we don't create with God and our egos get in the way and things like that, or when we're not doing what God wants us to do, which is and to be and to understand, is really to be in his image. And so what does that mean, to be in the image of God? Well, when you are learning who God is, you're learning who you are. And who God is God is only love. He is only unconditional love. So ultimately, that's what we're learning to be, is unconditional love and complete selflessness. So how, and that is also a balance that we need to do, because how do we balance also selfishness and then being not selfish? Where do you draw the line, where I need to take care of myself before I take care of the other? But I do believe that we need to get to a place within ourselves that we're taking care of ourselves because of our love for everyone else. So it's important that our health is good, and how we see things and how we understand things, and that we understand things correctly so that we can pass on that to others as well. Yeah, to start it off, things, as being in the beginning of time, is really trying to understand our true self and who we are. If we have that place of a starting point, then we can learn how to take things out of ourselves that we realize are not part of our truth, of who we really are. And that's how I learned to sort myself out, because I battled depression most of my life. And I had a battle when I was 25 years old, and with myself, and I feel like it was with my ego. My ego was telling me I was not good enough, and it was trying to convince me not to be here anymore. So what we're doing is we're really killing that part of ourselves that's actually trying to keep us from identifying with our bigger self of who we are. And going back to who we are in the image of God. Well, there was Adam. God created Adam, and out of Adam he created a woman. But the two are one, and together they are the image of God. And to go with the way that I see things, and the way that I've been writing about things, that the way that I'm understanding it is, Adam and Eve they actually have this beautiful, like pure love that we haven't identified with on this level for one another. When it was back in the garden, in their they were in their physical, just new people. I believe that they fell in love, but it started off with kind of an innocent naiveness toward one another, as like almost like a brother and sister. I kind of think that they must have been a little bit like the movie The Blue Lagoon with Brooke Shields, where they got stranded on that island. And they were like brother and sister. But as they matured, they started having feelings for one another, and those feelings, it was the sixth day. God created man on the sixth day. And he said that there are two trees in this garden, and one was the tree of life, and the other was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And he said, well, you cannot eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because then you would know good and evil, and you would be like what God knows. You would be like him. So that was the rule, and the one rule that they needed to stick to, which I believe signifies more of their relationship with one another. I see it more that Adam was like the tree of life. If you believe in God, then you have eternal life. You're living, you're living life the way that you should be, and who you should be in the image of God. And then I see it more that she was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so as they were maturing in their love for one another, I believe that um, they they fell in love, and they wanted to be with one another. They wanted to be together intimately, because that's what a man and a woman who falls in love, they want to be one. They want to be together. And they were a little immature in their love, because if they had waited until the sixth final and complete, they would have been one with God, and then they could be one with one another. But they decided to just they I believe they couldn't see what would be wrong with that, for them to be together, because it just felt so right. And so I believe his snake took her fruit, and that bore a baby into the world too soon, which was sin. This created this darkness in the world. Now, as far as I understand things from a Kabbalistic point of view, and from the rabbis, the way that I'm just plainly kind of talking about this, and the way that I see things, and that's the way that I write, and it's all in my poetry and things like that. Um, you know, it's not accepted just to blatantly just kind of, you know, that it's a theory. We don't know it for sure. It is a theory, but to me, this is what makes sense. It makes sense about how humanity is, and that it makes sense that that's how sin was birthed into this world. And also that I see it, the feminine, the female, she is the knowledge of good and evil, which I have to explain how that all plays into us as being, you know, uh, now, blown up and just filled the whole earth with just chaos of just men and women, and just all over the place, and none of us really agreeing on anything. So yeah, that sin in the beginning of time, I believe, really created this distance between the man and the woman. It's a curse that the man cannot see the woman anymore. Those two are just, it's like your brain and your heart, and that distance between the two. It's so difficult to make good choices that are not ego, that are not coming from our ego, but they're coming from our heart. They're coming from an empathetic viewpoint of, I know this is the right thing to do because it's the right thing for you. I might not make, a whole lot of money if I make this decision, but if I choose to make a whole lot of money on this decision and it hurts you, well, then I'm not going to make a whole lot of money. I'm going to choose to just not make the money, because I'm taking, I'm making a decision that's the right decision for the other. Or however, all, through life, that's what we do. We have a choice between, we always have a choice. There's always two choices in every little thing that we do every day, and that's how each human person has free choice to choose how they want to play the game, basically, the game of life, of um, of who and what you want to be and believe in. For the most part, all of us have been very selfish, and we have been thinking about survival and survival for ourselves, not thinking about how things affect everybody else. But now we're coming to a place in the world that we realize that this very selfish thinking and not really having any worries about consequences, or how our decisions affect everybody else. Even, I believe, the things that we think affect one another. And this is where I'm understanding things on a much, much deeper level, where even a thought can affect somebody, can affect everybody. So yeah, that's kind of how I see things starting in the beginning. And I'm going to make the video short. So that's just the beginning of the way that I see things. And then I can go on to tell you, how I see the difference in the world of the feminine compared to the masculine. So we've chosen the more feminine, where we're trying to understand the difference between good and evil, and we're going with God, and we're choosing good over evil. And then we could be very just narcissistic and unbelieving, and believing that we are just here for our own self, to have fun, to do whatever, and get ahead in my own self, and have a whatever kind of life I want. I don't care how it affects anybody else. There's that ego sort of idea that's a man thinking. It's not thinking with God. So I see there's two things that have developed in the world thinking. And then I can, take you into seeing how it all comes back together again as one, where the masculine and the feminine, where we see God, and we become one again, like one atom. And I believe that beautiful thing is just around the corner, for us to really, really, really grasp. Because once we grasp the truth is already here, but once we put it together, we put those pieces together, then we can all heal from so much, as so much toxic thinking, dysfunction in the way that we've been doing things. And we can start, once we're healed within ourselves, we can start to heal the rest of us and the rest of the world, which is our purpose. This is really what we live for. We're living to understand who we are and what we're doing here, and we're driven by love, and it's always this love for the other, and that's our wheel that keeps us moving and growing, and to continue, and to want, and to desire this different way of thinking that is selflessly thinking about bettering the other and empowering the other, and working together in this partnership of of like a love relationship, and how a love relationship starts out, where you're just getting to know one another, and then it just evolves into more and more and deeper and deeper and deeper until you eventually begin to be like one another. You become the man, you become the woman becomes the man becomes the woman. And that's my whole, thing that I like to talk about. So, and it gets confusing, but I'll slowly, take you through my journey of the way that I understand things. And thank you for watching, and please leave me comments, and I love to interact with people, and love to hear how you're understanding things. And again, this thought that I've connected to is Kabbalah. There's some Kabbalistic resources on my page, on my YouTube channel, that you can connect to, and also, see my website. There's lots of writing and poetry that you might also like. So thank you, and we'll continue this on another day.